You got to pick one very specific, simple thing that's going to do boom and keep the message super simple. Once you got the hook, then you can start, hey, what about this? What about that? I'd say the problem with this, it sounds like a lot of work, and it is. But you have to do this very deep analysis about what is your current customer base. It's not a simple ChatGPT request, but it's absolutely necessary, because if you cannot find that exact dot where your offer meets their need and make that so apparent and so obvious in the first 10 seconds, it's really hard to get through I don't have time.
Welcome back to this episode of the Law of Relevancy podcast. Today, I'm joined by the CEO and founder of Agorapulse. It's Emeric Ernoult, and he's joining us from Paris, France. Thanks for coming on the podcast today, Emeric.
It's my pleasure. I'm happy to be here.
Well, this is quite an honor. You've built an amazing platform. I spent a lot of time in the platform getting ready for our conversation today. It's definitely a top tier social media management platform, and I'd love to dig into what drove you to create this. And it's quite interesting because I've been involved in social media management for, pretty much ever since it existed. And it is a highly competitive space, but somehow you were able to bootstrap your company into the space and take market share.
Yeah, that's a long story, but yeah. So first of all, I've always been in social media ever since the year 2000, believe it or not. In 2000, our first SaaS business was called a community platform, but communities are the ancestor of social media, right? The forums of the early 2000 became social media eventually. And we already had built a SaaS platform to help people build their own communities online. So since, for the past 25 years, I've been building software on social media, interestingly enough. The way we came to Agorapulse, because it is a bootstrap business, it was a very iterative way. So we started by building something that we iterated to a pivot and then another pivot and then another pivot. So it took like 4 or 5 pivots before we got to where we are today. And very basically, if I had to summarize it all, is that we believe that companies and businesses have to be visible to the world, to their prospects and their customers. And obviously, there are many ways to be visible. And the social in general is meaning that the content created by the people and the conversations between them is already and is going to be more and more a channel that businesses cannot avoid. Like, they have to master it. They have to be present. They have to be visible there as well. And that's the premise of that. We want to solve that problem to make it as easy as possible for them to leverage the power of building visibility and connection on social media with their audiences. Obviously, there are other channels like email, like text messages, like, SEO, soon to be GEO with generative AI. Your business has to be visible. Google Maps, if you're a local business, you have to create visibility in all these places. But if you completely ignore what people say about you, say to you, and ask you on social, then you're missing a big piece, and we want to make that easy for you to leverage, basically. So that's where it started. And it is a competitive space, as you mentioned. It's been competitive since day one. We've always had competition. Even in 2012, it was competitive back then. I think the reason we were able to build a business despite the high level of competition is, first of all, we started early. We launched at the end of 2011, so we've been around for a while. You would do the same thing today, you would never succeed. The level of the competition is already way too high to start from scratch today, in my opinion. But what made us go through those years and not go bankrupt or stop doing business is we've always had one thing where we were really, really better than everybody else in the market. And in 2014, we were the first company that came up with the concept of a social media inbox. Before us, social media content, when it was coming to you through a software, think Hootsuite or TweetDeck at the time. It was columns. So it was organized in a lot of different columns, and it quickly became very unbearable and chaotic to manage. And we came up with, no, it should be managed the same way you manage your email, like a chronological order, and just filters and that kind of stuff. So we invented that in 2014. Obviously, everybody copied us, but for a while we had the best social media inbox on the market, and that allowed us to go from $0 to $5 million of revenue. And we kept iterating on that inbox, which to this day, our social media inbox is still the best in the market, even compared to companies that are a lot of money and are super big and very well known. And the second thing, what we did in 2022 is we patented an ROI calculator, a tool that allows you to measure the return on investment and the revenue you're generating from social media based on a connection with Google Analytics. And also we were the only one doing this at the time. And now that it's patented, if someone else tries to do it, they will end up in court. So I don't advise them to do that. But yeah, that is the thing that we've built. Always trying to have something unique. And that's the hard thing when you start a business, because that uniqueness has to evolve over time. Obviously, it has to respond to a market demand. People have to be interested about your uniqueness. If you have something unique and it's a quirk and nobody cares, then what's the point? And usually, when it's not when you cannot protect it, people are going to copy your unique thing if it's a good thing, and then you have to find another unique thing, and you have to keep reinventing yourself. What I would say to conclude on that is, you don't have to necessarily be unique because of a feature or of a product. You can also be unique because the way you serve a certain segment or a certain vertical or a certain type of company. So and then what you're going to do is you're only going to talk to them, and you say, oh, you're an agency. We're an ideal for agencies because we build everything around the needs of agencies. So that makes us unique to you. Well, of course, you could buy this competitor, but they're not unique to you. They care less about you than we care about you. So that uniqueness can be built differently than through product and features.
Yeah, I think you just hit on something that's really important. You're saying that you are able to emote, to be able to communicate or show value to your clients, that they felt like that you cared more about them than the competitors cared about them. And I think that speaks a lot to how the marketplace is changing, because traditionally, from the beginning of marketing, from like 120 years ago, you would come up with the 4 or 5 or 6 P's of marketing, because they've added P's along the way, whether it's product, price, placement, positioning, all of those types of things. But you would broadcast those things out into the marketplace, and then you would try to attract people to come to you. And nowadays, it seems like it's much more curated. You have to be much more granular. You have to be much more directed to particular personas and groups. And so how has your experience in building software to enable this really gotten you closer and help reveal how the marketplace is changing?
Yeah. Well, first of all, you nailed the change that has happened in the marketing system for at least the past 2 decades, for sure. The spray and pray, as we called it in the early 2000s, could have worked in 2001 or 2002 if you had a lot of budget to spend on advertising. Could probably still work in 2010 when we started, and then what you were spraying was content and blog posts and listicles and being ranked on other people's listicles and so on and so forth. That's basically how I was doing marketing in 2011, 2012, 2013, when I was the only one doing marketing in the company. But you're totally right. As of today, there is so much noise on the market, and there is so much competition. Not only competition from your direct competitors, but also competition from the attention of your prospects and customers. I don't know about you, but my attention level is very, very thin, because I'm bombarded by so many messages, so many ask for my attention about everything, that if you are a new product trying to reach out to me and make me aware that you exist and you can help me solve a problem I have, good luck. If you're not really, really good, get my attention and my time. And we're all facing this as businesses. So in order to cut through that, you cannot be average. you have to be really, really, really good. And to be really, really, really good, you have to be really, really, really relevant. And to be really, really, really relevant, everything you say to whoever you say it has to be so tailored to who they are and what pain they feel that they're like, okay, I can't say no to this guy. I have to talk to him. Oh my
He
God.
understands me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, or
Like,
they understand me. I want to listen to what's going on.
yeah. If I reach out to you and I say, yeah, we're social media management software, and actually we're one of the best in Florida because we have this and this and that works very well for businesses that have heating problems. It's weather related problems or whatever. If I say, oh, I'm an agency, I'm in Florida. Oh, that relates. That's relatable. I understand that it can be tailored more to me than it is to someone else. And that is something businesses kind of know, I think. I think entrepreneurs and business owners, they understand the concept of making sure that when they go and talk to people to describe and pitch what they do, they have to make sure that those people feel that it's done for them. But they're not really good at making it happen. So you still, as of this day, you still see way too many marketing messages that are, very broad and that are not that are not they don't ring a bell. Like they're like, yeah, sure, yeah, yet another design product or yet another CRM or whatever.
Well, let's dig into some examples here because I think it's very important to really strongly illustrate what you're talking about. So, can you think of an example of a client you've worked with that did a very good job of that, of speaking very directly to their customer versus, and it could be personal experience, but give us a great example of what you're talking about versus broad versus very tailored.
Yeah, well, I'm going to take an example from our own experience. It's easier for me because I know our marketing much better than I know our customers' marketing. Um, when we did the analysis, when we looked at all our recent wins with our sales team, we looked at what are the customers that we won, not easily because it's never easy, but like with more ease than average, and what are the one from the customer success team that are happy about what we do for them, that never, don't complain too much, that churn level is reasonable or there's none. And we started to look at all these components that are sending you a signal, which is these guys, they like you. And when you talk to them and you present what you have and what you sell, they immediately get it and they want it, or at least they behave in a way that they seem very interested. And we've identified that in different countries, it was not necessarily the same thing. So we had different personas, different ICP, ideal customer profile, from one country to another, for example, for many different reasons. And we just going to give you one example because it's going to be kind of an obvious thing. Oh, yeah, of course, duh. But in Germany, manufacturing is very strong for us. And guess what? Germany is a very strong manufacturing country. They do a lot of cars. They have a big industry.
It's national pride. That's
It's
part of
totally
their
national
national
pride.
identity,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And we're doing well with this vertical, in Germany. And when we started to dig into why do they like us so much? It's because they are very process driven. The Germans are very, very, they have a way to work and interact with people which is very, you would say strict, but it's like there is a framework and you have to ask within the framework. And if you don't, like it's, it's not good. They're not the Italians. They don't go left and right. They're very process driven.
You're
And,
talking to engineers.
yeah, they're more on the engineering mindset than the the artist mindset. And our tool already had embedded a lot of tools that allows for processes to be managed in a super effective way. And the way we manage, for example, how you approve how content is being produced and then posted on social media was really, really top notch. It's one of the best in the market. And they loved it because it made them feel like, oh, nothing that's going to go on my German manufacturing social media stuff is going to be something I'm not controlling 100%. So we realized that this was what spoke to them, and we brought the two dots together. And now when we're advertising to them, when we're doing webinars towards this, specific ICPs when we're reaching out to them. These are the things that we use as, oh, are you afraid that when content you produce go on social media, it may not be exactly what you wanted? Do you have anxiety when people hit the publish button on your company's social media accounts, or are you bored of using Excel to do that? Whatever? It's all built around safety, because for Germans, safety and for manufacturing in particular, safety is really important. So
Quality. Yeah.
yeah, quality. Yeah, it comes to, if it's high quality, it has to be safe. If it's not safe, it's not quality. It's dangerous, and it applies to a lot of things. It also applies to how they choose their vendor. So if you're not ISO 27000 certified, and like you have GDPR left and right, your legal stuff is all packaged right in German and so on and so forth, it's not going to work really well. So
Well, I saw that in your platform. I mean, the fact that it looks like you have listening built in to the platform, which is
yeah,
really important for paying attention and not missing anything. So it
well,
seems like features like that would appeal very much to that audience.
yeah, as well. But you gotta pick one very specific, simple thing that's going to do boom, like most of the time, and keep the message super simple. Once you got the hook, then you can start, hey, what about this? What about that? And start digging into more. But you got to get the first hook, especially like we said earlier, in this very noisy world when it's going to be really hard to get their attention anyway. And it's I'd say the problem with this, it sounds like a lot of work, and it is. Because you have to go very deep analyzing your data, which, by the way, AI tools now help you a lot with. So if you're leveraging AI the right way, you can do that. More companies can do that today with those tools than was possible 10 years ago for a company our size. Back then, impossible to kind of analysis. Today, it could be possible, even for the size we had 10 years ago. So that's the good news. But you have to do this very deep analysis about what is your current customer base, where are they, who are they, which are the ones that are healthy, not healthy, and it's not simple. Let's put it this way: it's not a simple chat GPT request. It's a little bit more than that, but it's absolutely necessary, because if you cannot find that exact dot where your offer meets their need and make that so apparent and so obvious in the first 10 seconds, it's really hard to get through I don't have time.
Yeah. Well, how do
So
you balance speaking directly to engineers in Germany, but also speaking to artists in Italy?
you have different marketing teams that do different marketing activities for Germans and Italians. You have to have different people on the ground with, first of all, native language capabilities and culture understanding. So we have Germans in the team. We don't target Italy because it's a really hard country to target. So we're not doing a lot of business in Italy. But we have Americans in America, and Canadians in Canada, and Brits in the UK, and so on and so forth. So which makes international business more complex than national business, because you have to embed these cultural differences into your model, into your teams, and into how you pitch to the markets.
Well, I agree. Relevancy is very important. That's why we named the podcast
Oh, it is.
the Law of Relevancy.
There
Because
are commonalities. They're like, it's not 100% difference. Us from the West, we have a lot of commonalities, but an American and an Italian have commonalities. They both drive cars and have kind of the same level of, wealth, sort of. Like, we all have a house, go on vacation, we eat the same stuff, sort of. Italians would yell at me if they heard me say that. Um, but there are very strong differences into how they work, when they work, what works means for them, and so on and so forth. And your team needs to inherently understand that with marketers.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, it all gets back to measurement, right? I mean, you have to be able to. I think we would all agree with you that is an ideal way of doing your marketing, is having extremely targeted messaging to those different segments. But how do you measure it? How do you know if it's working? It seems like you guys have spent a lot of time on this, and your attribution models. You mentioned it's patented. Dig into that a little bit more.
Yeah. So what we've done on social media is a little bit different than what we're doing globally in marketing. So I'm going to go from what we do on social media, and then I'm going to expand into how we measure marketing overall today, and the different steps in the journey that we've been through to get to where we are today. So first of all, marketing measurement and attribution is really, really complex. Let's not make um, false promises or say things that we cannot deliver on. It's really, really complex. It's really, really hard. At the end of the day, if you go all in, I'm going to measure everything, you're done. It's not going to work. It's a lost battle. But if you go on the exact opposite way, which is I'm not going to measure nothing, and it's also done, then you'll have no idea if anything's working. So unfortunately, the right way, the truth is between those two extremes. What we've done on social, just as a segue, is that you cannot measure everything social is creating. Social is going to do a lot of awareness type of, benefit, and you cannot measure awareness. There's that. Yeah, maybe there are a couple of survey companies that will measure awareness after a TV campaign, so that kind of stuff. But it's to me, it's hocus pocus. I would measure awareness looking at exposure, like how many people saw my thing. That's the way I will measure awareness in my own marketing. So you can measure that with social. Every social media tool has a analytics part that's going to tell you what was your reach, which is basically the number of people who were exposed to your messages and your content. So that's one thing, but you're just going to have a big picture. That does not necessarily mean that you're making more money or you're generating revenue in the short term. And usually it does not. It's a long-term consequence, not a short-term consequence. But if you have no awareness, one thing you need to understand is that selling is going to be much harder. So selling without awareness is really difficult. So like, yeah, you have to kind of balance. So my CRO, who is really smart, he always says, put 20% of your budget and your efforts on global awareness and 80% on, helping the sales team close and get deals and make deals. And I think it's a good split if you want to do some awareness and or demand generation, getting business this quarter and next quarter and not in 2 years. It's a good split. So what we did with social is that we said, okay, the awareness stuff, you can measure it. You can look at how many people you reached and what's your exposure. But what you cannot know is if you closed any, got any immediate benefit. So that's where we worked on creating. The only way you can know that actually, it's not rocket science. It's through links. I mean, there is only one way advertisement is measured. It's through how many people clicked on the ad and what did they do after that. It's really not rocket science. There's only one way. Marketing automation, HubSpot, Marketo, all these tools are
That's
measured. Is
basic tagging, basic fundamental tagging, and things like that.
basic fundamental tagging. Absolutely, you got that. That's it. There's no magic solution. There's a link. You take them from that link to an asset you have created, which is usually on your website. Could be a webinar. It could be a video you want them to watch. Could be a document you want them to read or download or whatever, like a free trial you want them to try, anything, and you track how many people click on that thing, and then you track how many people actually acted on that thing once they land on the page. That's how advertising works. That's how marketing automation works. It's how everything marketing digital work has been working for the past 20 years. So what we basically did is we applied that to social. Like, it was no social tool was offering you that measurement before, and now we do. And that's the thing that we patented, because there was a little trick that we had to do in order to get that. In order, basically, if you look at Google Analytics can tell you how many leads or conversions you got from Facebook. But if you have 10 Facebook pages, you will not know which one. Like, you will know it's coming from Facebook. And if you have 10 Facebook pages and you have a lot of people talking about you in Facebook groups, it will be all included in that come from Facebook. You will not have the granularity of, okay, it came from Facebook, but was it my Facebook? Is it what I did on Facebook? Is it what someone else did on Facebook? You will have no idea. With our feature and technology, you'll know, okay, that many came from Facebook, but only that many came from my own content that I posted, or my own comments, or my own private messages. Or it's also one thing that our technology is going to be able to offer, is that you're going to know very granularly who got what, when, through what type of communication. what type of message, what type of asset. So that's what we built. Back to what I said earlier, it's not everything social is for you. It's just that little tip of the iceberg of when social can be a conversion helper. You'll be able to measure it, but keep in mind that it's going to be a tip of the iceberg. It's not going to be the whole iceberg of what social is worth for you. And I like this tip of the iceberg analogy because what I tell my team or anybody who's kind of giving me objections about, oh, we're only measuring the tip of the iceberg, so is it really worth it? And my answer every single time is, if there's no tip, there's probably no freaking iceberg.
Yeah.
so,
Right.
so at least by measuring tips of the icebergs, you know that there must be an iceberg somewhere down below. So at least I know I can see something. I know there's more, but the more is not measurable at this point. And same for the ads, by the way. That's one thing I've learned a long time ago. We run a lot of Facebook campaigns back in the days, 2012 and 2013. And they didn't, the revenue was growing, but the Facebook campaign was not doing really good when you were looking at pixel conversion, like direct conversion within the Facebook interface. And at one point, I did an experiment. I said, okay, let's target, at the time I targeted Mexico. Let's target the country of Mexico for a full month. And I put 5,000 on the country of Mexico. And I just do Mexico. I don't do Colombia. I don't do any other South American countries. At the time, I was trying to penetrate South America.
And that's actually a lot for Mexico. When we've run campaigns in South America and Central America, it's about 25% the cost of what we would spend in America.
Yeah, it's a lot cheaper. It's a lot cheaper. Absolutely. And so I did that for a month. And when I looked at the campaign was so. It was not great. Really, the meta, the Facebook report was not great. And then I looked at my revenue from Mexico, and it was like woof, up and to the right, really, really significantly. I said, that's interesting. There is a correlation, but that correlation does not show in the pixel. It does not show in the direct attribution to the ad campaign. So someone sees the ad on their phone and got to the office and say, hey, colleague, you should check this Agorapulse.com website. Looks cool. Okay, let me check. How do you spell it? Right. That will never be tracked. So I'm just using this as an example because this happens all the time. Word of mouth in the office happens all the time. And my test at the time was, okay, let's stop for a month. I stopped for a month, and then it slowed down. And then after 1 month of slowing down, I said, okay, let's do it again. I did another month, 5K, boom, and then up and to the right. And again, in the Facebook report, the results was a third or a fourth of what we actually saw in my revenue. So just a piece of advice for people in the audience who want to test advertising. If you are unsure, do that kind of geographical targeting, or you can do city by city in the US as well, and do that, and then look at your revenue. Does that impact the revenue in that geo or not? And that way you get more than the tip of the iceberg. You know if there's an iceberg, yes or no. Which is
that's a really good point. I remember I was at a conference about 10 years ago, and YouTube had just come out with their view through product, where you only paid if they, or TrueView was the name of the product, and you only paid for the advertising if somebody watched enough of it. And I remember this was an automotive marketing conference, and I remember the presenter was talking about how they had run a lot of experiments, and that very few people in an awareness campaign like a YouTube, for example, which is a very trusted platform, are actually clicking through to convert from that direct path. But there's a ton of influence and spillover into other direct traffic, organic traffic that's coming from that awareness. And so the only way you can actually measure it is with a metric called media efficiency ratio, where you look at the total amount of media that you are spending in that space, and you're looking at the total amount of revenue from that space. And so that's the only way. It's kind of like, that's measuring like the whole iceberg, but in a very gross, non-targeted way. But it's somewhere in there, you're advertising, all of your channels are working. And so you can do an experiment, and you can test to see the effectiveness as it affects the whole, from the total amount of advertising you're doing. this is where agencies have value. This is
Yeah.
where, like, as an agency, we're supposed to know these things, where
Yeah.
you would have to be a director of marketing, VP of marketing. Like, you would need to have a very high skill level in a company marketing department or work at an agency. I mean, this is why people hire us,
Mm.
and hire and buy software like what you have, is because you're offering levels of attribution, levels of performance, level of measurement, things like that they wouldn't get if they were just looking at a publisher tool and clicking through the interface and running a campaign and things like that. And so
Yeah.
I think that's really important.
Yeah, and to finish on the so that's what we did on social, and that's the tip of the iceberg, and so on and so forth. So you got the idea. What now? Taking a level up, so taking a landing, getting on a plane, and going 10,000 feet view. The way we measure our marketing effectiveness now is because the way I look at this whole process is I look at it as it's a go-to-market team. So I have a go-to-market team. I don't have a marketing team and a sales team and a BDR team, development team. I have a go-to-market team, and it's just all of these people are one team, and they all work towards the same goal, which is okay. Our priority for this quarter is going to be manufacturing in Germany. It's 1,500 companies, more than 500 employees. This is our target for Germany. For the UK, this is our target. For France, for the US, for Canada. So we define the targets that are based on the criteria that we discussed earlier, because they are the best customers we have today, among the best. And once we've done that, we define the content. We know their pains. We create everything that's going to appeal to them, like we shared earlier. And then we put that list in the CRM, and that list is going to be leveraged. We find the personas that we need to talk to within those companies. They're going to be the social media manager, the VP of marketing, the director of communication, if you're in French, because they use that term a lot, that job title a lot. So country by country, you're going to define these are the job titles that people who use us or buy us call themselves with. So like those are the persona we're going to target. And you're going to start doing combined LinkedIn advertising that's targeting only these personas in these companies, in these 2,000 accounts and 1,500 accounts and so on and so forth. You're going to do email. So there are a lot of tooling that needs to be done, and there's so much revenue operations that need to be done to make that work. It's crazy, not even funny. But you're going to create emailing campaigns that are targeting the same people, the exact same people. And your BDRs, your business development people, are going to reach out to them via one-on-one LinkedIn message, email, or email and phone calls. And for a given period, you have, let's say for us, because we're mid-market, you have 6,000 accounts worldwide for a semester. And that's going to be your core target. And the way you measure how good you're doing is your penetration with those 6,000 accounts. So you start with 6,000 accounts. After a month, how many of them clicked on your ad, registered to your webinar, downloaded your thing, and eventually raised their hand, wanted a demo, started a trial? And that you can measure all of that. There's no tip and iceberg. It's 100% measured because it's 100% your data. Because you have the list, you know who you're going after, and you've defined why you're going after them. And now you're going week after week, month after month. How many of them went down a funnel of they heard about us, they sent us a signal? That's the case. We use tools that de-anonymize your web traffic, and they tell you which organization is visiting your website. And so now, those 125 orgs that are in the target market that we defined, they visited our pricing page. They have not yet downloaded anything. They have not yet did this. So, and then you start scoring them. Oh, they visited the site. They did this. They asked for something. And every month you need to make progress in that penetration. That penetration needs to be deeper and better every single week, every single month. And at the end of the quarter or the semester, depending on how long this has to go, that usually depends on the size of the accounts and how long it takes to close them. You're measuring how good you've been at getting deep into making as many of them as possible raise their hand and say, we're looking for social media management software. Can we talk? And that's where you measure the efficiency of your go-to-market team as a whole. So that's how we measure things. I'm not going to lie, it's not simple, and it took us almost 18 months to build, but it's the only way to know if what you're doing is working or not.
Well, because you're starting with a defined universe of prospects.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's really, truly, that's fundamental B2B marketing. but
Totally B2B.
you're
Yeah, of
in,
course, everything I say is B2B 100%. If
yeah.
you sell B2C, everything I said, forget about it because it doesn't apply.
But it is because you're starting with that defined set of prospects that you've researched and pulled those names, and you use a tool like Zoom Info or Seamless
Yep.
or one of those other tools. It is it's a very clean way of doing the actual marketing and understanding the impact you're having. It's very manageable. It's a very, very manageable way. You have to use a CRM. You can't use a
Yep.
spreadsheet to do this.
No.
You have to use a CRM.
Yep.
But I do admire your approach. I think it's a very effective way. I mean, and clearly, like, you've bootstrapped and grown your company to a significant amount of revenues over the last 13 years.
Mm. Well, it's only 25 million. There are a lot of people with much more revenue, but for a bootstrap company, it's quite good already.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of company out there that have a billion, but or hundreds of millions, but they've taken on dramatic amounts of investment and things like that. And the fact that you've been able to manage your growth. What are your tips for someone who's trying to scale and to try to grow either a product or service in a way that that they're growing as fast as possible without taking on a lot of debt or diluting themselves with equity?
Yeah, that's a tough question. Yeah, because I don't think there's a good or bad way to grow a business. I have friends who raised a ton of money and it was the right thing for them to do. Um, I do think, though, as a piece of advice, very, very few businesses raise money. Most businesses don't raise money. Your business didn't raise money. Most businesses, as like yours and mine, they cannot raise money. Like nobody will ever give you $1 million to start a marketing agency, or to me, they would not give me $1 million at the time because there were already too many and it was already done and social media, it was not fashionable anymore. So
I
like,
mean, for me, it's a personal choice. Like I did raise a very small amount of money to help get the organization going, but like personally, it's difficult for me to go raise massive amounts of money because now I'm accountable. Like, it's not a guarantee that it's going to work, and if it doesn't
oh,
work, there's
feel
a lot
bad.
of personal shame
Yeah,
associated with
yeah,
that.
it's
You're
really hard.
using other people's money, but it
Yeah,
is super clean, and I can sleep really good at night to know that
yeah.
that I am moving something along in a way that takes care of itself. I mean, for
No,
me
no,
personally, that's the way I feel.
absolutely. And I understand you're feeling 100%. But what I'm trying to say is that it's rare that you can raise $3 million to start your business. Rare it's beyond rare. It's borderline impossible in 99.99% of businesses. So if you want to start a business and the condition precedent that you put on your journey to be a business operator, an entrepreneur, is that before I get to this, I need to raise 3 million. Your chances of becoming an entrepreneur and starting your business are almost non-existent. So if it's really important for you and that's something you really want to do, don't put that condition precedent on the journey. Like, create something you can create without having to raise 3 million. Maybe a couple of dozens of thousands of dollars from friends and family, maybe, which I did, but not the big money from the hotshot VCs because it's borderline impossible. And I know that for me, the fact that I had the life I had is the one important thing. Not the money I raise, not the revenue I make, not the fame or the so-called fame I may or may not have. What matters the most is this was the life I wanted to have. This was the journey I wanted to embark on. And so putting a condition precedent that was borderline impossible to get to this would have been silly. If I'm happy I did not.
Let me ask you a question. So, in the early days of Agorapulse, how many jobs were you doing? I mean, you're the founder. I mean,
Yeah.
like, how many people did you start with? How did you scale from there? Like, what departments were you looking at? How did you know
Yeah.
that it was time to add the next employee?
Yeah, that's the hard truth. That's the hard truth people don't want to hear. It was basically the early days was my co-founder and I. That was it. It was my CTO and I was the C everything else O, meaning I was accounting, tax filing, marketing, customer support, demo, sales, like everything. Admin, everything. I basically you don't have a company as long as you don't have a product. So I wanted my co-founder to be just worrying about the product. So I worried about everything else. So he only had the product to worry about. And that lasted for several years with the previous business. And when we started this business, we had my co-founder, two developers, and me. That was it. And that was it for 2 years. For 2 years, I was doing finance, accounting, IRS filing,
Yeah.
and marketing, and blog post writing, and customer support at night and during weekends. And it's a hell of a lot of work. It's a huge sacrifice to everything else. And I don't think that there is another way. I don't think there's an easy way to start a business. It's always the hard way.
Well, how do you stay focused? Because I'm sure that there was a lot of money in social media management services back when your Agorapulse got started. How did you stay focused? Because I'm sure there was a temptation to swing over and do some services, right? How do you stay focused on the product?
Great question. It's a very relevant question. And the answer in my case is simple because at some point in our journey, we eventually had an agency because our previous product, that was a build your own social network. That's what it was between 2001 and 2010. And that product, we couldn't sell the product without selling the services around the product. So the community management services, the design, the white labeling, and all that kind of stuff. We had to sell the service because people would never buy the technology on its own. And so we became primarily an agency that, by the way, is going to provide you with a community technology that you can use on your website. And I hated it.
So it's an agency with a proprietary technology.
Yeah, that's what we became. It was called Affinity Z at the time. And I used to be a business lawyer. So I used to be in the service business myself. And my co-founder used to work for an agency that was doing websites for its customer in the late 90s and early 2000s. So we both came from a service business background. And when we got back to the service business with our own business, but it was not very successful. Let's put that as a caveat, because if you have a very successful service business, you can have a great life. But our service business was not very successful. And I was paying myself minimum wage and my co-founder are not far from that. And when I was an M&A lawyer, I was making 10x that or more, 15x that. So after 10 years or 8 years of leaving bar and not being a lawyer anymore, making 10x less money at something that's 10x harder, it didn't feel like a big success. So we didn't like this life that we built for ourselves. And the decision we've made with Agorapulse is that it has to be a product-led business. It has to be something where there's no service, because we had this pain that we went through of trying to build a product business and not being successful doing so, and building service around it to try to just make a living. Like basically that's what it was. So back to your question, that is why when we built Agorapulse, we said, no service, it's just product, which it made the success of Agorapulse take a long time, because then the product business can take years to get to break even, where a service business can break even in the first year. So it's more difficult to break even with the product business than the service business. But when you do, you have more freedom, which is something, and then more scale, which is something I really wanted.
And the temptation is to come up with a hybrid one where you can bootstrap or bankroll the product development with services. But if you have the guts and the fortitude to just stick to the product, your chances of building a successful product and the long game go up if you can survive the short term.
This is so true. I've seen so many examples of people who did that, but didn't put their balls on the table at one point and then say, okay, hold on, product. And actually went bankrupt because they could never decide, and they kept doing two, and they did the two not really great. And then eventually there's a downturn. It's 2008 and the service business stank, and your product business is not big enough to make up for it. And boom, you go bankrupt and you're done. I know at least two companies that made that mistake. And I witnessed it. So it definitely struck me as the thing not to do. One thing I would say though, is that I also know a lot of agencies, a lot of product companies that came from an agency and are successful now. But what made them successful is that at one point in that journey of having both and trying to manage both at the same time, at one point, the founders say, okay, that's it. Now it's full product. and they shut down the service business, which is, it's like you have two arms and you decide the left arm has to go. And it's like, oh my God, what am I going to do with one arm?
Yeah.
Well, learn to live with it, because otherwise your two arms are going to fall at one point. And so what the commonality between those successful product companies, that at one point the founders said, that's it, full on product, whatever the cost, we're going to make it 100% product, and the service has to go, which is, like you said, super hard decision to make. But that's the only reason that they eventually did it.
But that's also a great moment to raise money if you're going to raise money. If you can bootstrap to that point where you're able to demonstrate the use of the product successfully for clients and show value, as well as the product, at that moment, you can dilute yourself, in my opinion. That's where you can bring on the money, because then the raising that money can help take you to that next level. To do the product, and that would be my recommendation. Is it that
totally
moment
makes sense.
that you do it?
Totally makes sense.
Yeah. Plus, you have a track record. Well, Emeric, it's been awesome talking to you. The last topic I want to speak about is just the impact of AI. Obviously, you're incorporating AI in your writing tools, and how people are being able to monitor and engage with their followers and the people in social media. What impact do you see this new, generative AI technology having in marketing in general, in your space? Like to me, it's this is a gigantic wave that's coming that no one can avoid, and it is going to be massively impactful. And they are right on the verge of super intelligence and all of these things. And I mean, even down to like writing code for your own application. It's gotten a lot easier. I saw a report a couple of weeks ago where companies that were famous for hiring developers actually reduced their headcount of developers, because they have the developers who are using tools like Cursor and Windsurf and some of these tools to actually write their code are now so much more productive because the AI is writing a lot of the code for them. Where do you see this whole thing playing out?
Well, first of all, you're right. It's a tsunami, completely. I still believe that to this day, most people have not yet realized what's coming at them, for sure. I also do believe that it's not going to be as fast as some people predict, for one main reason. It's how much time it takes to change human behaviors and how human beings do their things. And there's a reason change management is the thing, because change management is needed in many different changes. Like you need to train and repeat and explain and so on and so forth for businesses and people in businesses to entirely grasp. Oh my God, I can do this. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't realize I could do that. So I think it's a tsunami people underestimate, but the experts, the AI gurus, they overestimate the length of time that's going to be needed for that change to deeply impact how businesses do business. Obviously, there will be impacts on software and products. Some of them are going to go away because they're not going to be anymore. Like translation, the whole business of translation is dead. I mean, you don't need translators anymore.
Yeah.
AI is so much better already. Very, very soon, like we do a lot of videos. Oh, we need a French version of the video, a German version of the video. As of today, it's not good enough. It's not good enough. So we cannot use that, with full confidence. So a year from today, all our English videos will be dubbed in French and German and Spanish and boom, boom, boom in one.
You hit one button and it'll do.
Yeah. It's not good enough now, but it's going to be good enough in 1 year. So a lot of the things are going to change. And what in the products, what product delivers, some of them again are going to disappear. Most of them are going to be enhanced with AI. That's for now. That's how we view our space. I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I cannot see any disruption, like deep disruption, that what we do is irrelevant in 2 years because of AI. I feel what we do will have to be enhanced by AI, so it's 10x better once it has embedded AI everywhere, and that's the challenge that we're currently looking at it. That's the way we approached it. We approach it from product perspective. And obviously, there's already a lot of AI. The writing assistant is one, but we have um, um, we propose responses to private messages as a feature. It's very common in support. We apply that to social. We have sentiment analysis everywhere. That's also based on AI in several languages. So like we have summaries of your stats. Basically, you look at all these analytics, and especially in social, there's so many data points everywhere. It's really, really hard to know what to do with that and what's the insight. AI is going to be the insight builder. Like, oh, this is what we need to know. Bum, 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 bum. And what we need to do about it. So there's that coming up as well. So all these things. But I'd say with all the research I've done with AI, they're quite predictable. Like you could, yeah, that makes sense. You should do that. Given the product you have, this is how AI can help you. So for now, I don't see a lot of revolution. Um, I've looked at a lot of product for sales, like AI SDRs or AI outbound, or there are a lot of stuff that's not there yet. It's not ready.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of hype and there's a lot of products. Oh my God, there's so many products. AI SDR, you got like 10 products from which one? I don't have any idea. So it makes it really hard for us, the buyers, right, to know what to buy. So that's a challenge that we have as buyers. Like, what do I need to buy? Which creates an immobility. Oh, I don't know what to buy. I'm not going to buy anything for now because I'm not sure it's ready. What I know for sure is that the companies that we run, yours, mine, everybody else's, we have to teach our teams and we have to push our teams to enhance themselves with AI. We have to make them realize this is what it can do for you by using it, by use cases, by examples. And us as leaders, we have to lead by examples. We have to show them how we use it, how it augments us, how it sometimes replaces us. So they're not afraid. Oh, I replaced myself with this. I am so happy I don't have to do this anymore. So they can say, oh yeah, I can actually replace myself for some of the tasks, and it's okay. It's actually a good thing. So that's the leadership that we need to show them. Like just to give you one example, and then I'll stop because I can be very chatty. I am the only guy who knows legal in the company because I have a legal background. So for a long time and still today, when my account executive, my salespeople had a prospect come back to them and say, I want to make a change to your contract, and this is the change I want to make. The process was ask Emeric if it's okay or not. And I was on Slack and at 11 p.m. with my American salesperson or person sending me, oh, they want to change the jurisdiction clause from Paris to New York. Is it okay? We build a process and yada, yada, yada. But at the end of the day, I was always the final person to go approve the thing and tell them what to say. I build a custom GPT chat GPT, where I basically put all the context. This is how I make my decisions. This is how I think. These are all the documents, the template email you can send. I basically fed the GPT with all my process. And now they have the link to the custom GPT. And when there's a contract, they have to upload the template, the original template. This is where AI is not ready because they still have to upload the initial template of our terms of service as they are today. And they have to upload a PDF with what they want to change, like the same doc with the changes already embedded in it, which is, again, it's a little bit more work for them. It should get better over time, but it's already so much better than before. So the custom GPT gets PDF, previous version, PDF, proposed version, list all the differences, and difference by difference, tell the account exec what is okay, what is not okay, like absolutely not okay. Yeah, what is kind of okay, but we'd rather write this. And then write an email that explain all the things that are okay, all the things that are not okay and say why, and all the things that are kind of okay, but this is what we propose instead. And now I don't have to touch this. I'm still QAing this. I'm reviewing the chats that they send me back. You can share the conversation with ChatGPT. So you can share the link and say, here's the conversation. Is it okay? I still read the conversations, but it takes me 10 minutes to vet something that used to take me an hour and 30 minutes. That's one example. I have dozens like these.
Yeah, no, I
like
love
this one.
I love your example. I love hearing how you're using it. We're actually using custom GPTs to understand particular personas for each individual customers of ours. Like, here's how they've said everything in the past. Here's how we think they are to say it going forward. We're feeding in broad things, and I love the way you're using it. And I like what you're describing is a small agent that specializes in one thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you haven't heard agent, I mean, if there was the word of the year, it would be AI agent
Yeah,
for
for sure.
2025. I mean, it's such a big impact.
It is. And we have plenty of use cases. We analyze RFP. So when an RFP comes to us, we send the RFP to a GPT. And basically it digests everything in the RFP, and it gives us item by item our chances to win and an overall percentage to win the thing. So above 70%, we don't even go for the RFP. Below 70%, above 70%, we start looking. Is there any blockers? Or are they absolute necessity? Like basically, it was taking hours to do analyzing
Days.
RFPs
Yeah.
and should we respond to them. Hours, and it was the most boring work you can do on planet Earth. And now it's done by AI in a matter of seconds.
Yeah. I would recommend to anybody listening to this to dive headfirst into this, even if you're tired and don't want to learn anything. It's your professional survival may depend on it by
It
being
will,
better
for
at
sure.
these types of skills than your counterparts. Emeric, it's been a real pleasure speaking with you. I hope we can continue to talk in the future. I love your approach. I love hearing your opinion on things. I'm 100% in agreement with you about everything that you said. No, and I love that you're really innovating in a place where you're surrounded by hundreds of year old architecture. There's cultural influences in Paris. I love Paris. My grandmother was French. My grandfather met her during World War II, and so I went there a lot when I was a kid. And it's one of the most beautiful places on earth. But there is, the culture is very curated. It's beautiful. You're surrounded by architecture that reminds you of what you said about how quickly people are going to adopt new things. Like thank goodness the adoption for things like architecture in Paris has taken a long time, and it's been very very curated in how it has evolved. And so I think that even that on top of itself is admirable, because you think about the tech centers in America and where people are working 70, 80-hour weeks, and that's not necessarily the culture in France. And so the fact that you're able to push forward, maybe we're wasting a lot of time over here. Maybe we ought to have shorter work weeks, but more productive work weeks.
Well, my weeks are the same as my week is an average American work week. It's the 70, 80 hours is very common for me as a founder, but not for my team. That's for sure.
That's right. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like we live in this intersection of like technology, but also culture, and your ability to identify the cultural differences of places like Italy, places like France, places like America, is I think you're extremely intelligent. And so again, I really appreciate your time today. It's been great having you on the show.
Thank you so much.
Where can we follow your progress and learn more about the tools that you've created?
Yeah, the best place is LinkedIn. That's really the one social network I use the most, and I still use as of today. Given my schedule, I couldn't keep up with everything else with all the other networks, so it's the one I'm still active on, and I do reply to invitations when there's a little note saying, I heard you on a podcast. I like what you said about X and Y. If it's a little customized, I will always accept invitations, and if when people ask me questions, I'll always reply. So LinkedIn's the best place.
That's great. I definitely have a couple follow-up questions for you. So you can follow us anywhere where podcasts are found across the Bake More Pies social media profile, as well as the Law of Relevancy. Emeric, thank you again for joining us. We'll see you guys next time.